Wentz steps up. Here comes the rush. He is going deep, and it is caught. And in for a touchdown, Deshaun Jackson.
Give the people what they want.
Hey everyone, welcome to Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We have a jam-packed show for you today with Reuben Frank. I'm
Really
Dave Zangaro. What?
It was my Ed Sullivan. Really big show.
That reference was lost on me. I apologize.
It's all right.
We have Ray Didinger joining us in just a little bit to talk about Jalen Hurts and his impressions of Hurts' first start. We'll talk a little bit about the Arizona Cardinals and what the Eagles need to try to do to win that game. But I want to start today with Jason Kelce. We talked to him on Wednesday, and talking to Jason Kelce the last couple of weeks has been can't miss. I mean, we're talking about a 10-year vet, one of the smartest guys I think either of us have ever covered. And we're going to do something a little unusual. We want to play for you the entirety of one of his answers. It's a long answer, so bear with us, but we think it's worth you guys hearing. He was asked about basically seeing young players and kind of went off on the idea of tanking. Here's Jason Kelce.
I think everybody's curious at all times to see what the young guys have in games. You know, that's something that whenever a guy gets an opportunity, you're like, okay, let's see what this guy does. You know, this is, you know, these are the moments in the NFL, especially as an older player or as I'm sure the coaches and everybody else or even fans, where you're like, hey, I finally get to see this guy go out there and play. So, you know, obviously it's an exciting time whenever somebody's going out there for the first time. That being said, I think at all times in the NFL, the focus should be winning the football game. Nothing else takes precedence. No player evaluation. No amount of curiosity from anybody within the organization. Everything is focused in this, in my opinion, in this league, upon winning games. You see a lot of losing teams sustain losses for a number of years. When they have bad cultures. They have cultures where you don't try and win every week, where you're trying to what are we going to do in the draft? What are we going to do in free agency? What can we do over here? You know, in football, this isn't basketball. One draft pick isn't going to make us a Super Bowl champion. It might be a big start to a Super Bowl championship, but it's always going to be about the team. That's the greatest thing about this sport. And culture and the way guys fight and the way guys go to prepare and the way guys go about their business is a huge reason for success in this league and in this sport. So nothing takes precedence over trying to win a football game. I don't care who you're trying to evaluate. I don't care if you've lost every game, you're 0-15 and it's the last one you got. Everything is about winning in this league. And I know that you know, I know that won't appease a lot of people out there that always want to talk about getting better draft positions or getting looks at certain guys to see what you got for the future. But again, the moment a team feels like you as an organization aren't doing your job for me to go out there and win, all of a sudden you've shown who you are. You don't care about me or this team. You care about the future. You care about this. That's not what the focus is here. That's not what the focus is on any winning organization's team. So, yeah, that's my answer.
What an answer, Rube. I mean, it's one of the best answers I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, he's so thoughtful. And, you know, this is a guy, like if you gave him a month, if you gave most players a month to prepare an answer to that question, it wouldn't be as thoughtful and as comprehensive and as compelling as Jason answering it without knowing the question's coming. And so it's obviously something he's thought a lot about. You know, I've always thought, people always say, you know, can Jason Kelce be a coach? When I listen to that answer, it makes me think Jason Kelce could be a GM. You know, that's kind of what it made me think. And, you know, it's something we've talked about. I mean, I've always said, I think you agree with me. It's just always better to win than not to win. And you know, I know fans want the fifth pick instead of the whatever pick, but winning does so many things, and I think Jason kind of articulated it better than I ever could why that's so important and why this team is trying to win games, sitting here at 3-8-1 with 4 games left, beating the Saints and doing everything possible. It answers questions like, why is Alshon Jeffrey getting reps, getting snaps instead of Travis Fulgham, or why did they try to make it work with Jason Peters, which Now that might not have been a smart strategic move, but I think it answers why they did it. I mean, it didn't work out, but he's trying to put together the best 11 guys out there that he can. And at that point, they thought JP was one of those guys, and same with Alshon. And the same with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's not starting because they want to see him or, see what he's all about. That's good, a product of it, but he's starting because they think he gives them the best chance to win. And I think we saw Sunday that he does.
Yeah, a few things with Kelce's whole spiel there. I agree with him that, look, I like
has negative connotations.
Well, that's what I'm going to get to here, because I totally agree with him that should be his standpoint. That's, as a player, that's what you want. And I agree with him that it's important for culture to try to win games. The flip side of that is, I don't know if winning games is in their best interest long term, because I think the draft pick helps. Trying to win is certainly in their interest, because I think once you start or you stop trying to win, or there's a perception that you're not trying to win, that is a bigger problem, right? Like if you're on the Jets right now and you're thinking, man, we're trying to suck because we're trying to get this top pick, that to me is a bigger problem than trying and losing. Trying and losing is great. That's the best case scenario. And you can't plan to do that. But if you try and you lose and you end up with the top 5 pick in a season that's not going anywhere, that's fine. That's great. But I think
we talked about that last week, Dave. I mean, we said, what's the best case scenario? It's that Hurts plays well and they lose.
Yeah, exactly. But like the Eagles' perspective, they have to try to win the games, and they should. The other problem, and this is not a problem with Kelce, he was right. I think the coaches are not valuing players the right way. They finally realized that Jalen Hurts gave them a better chance to win. But they realized too late with Jason Peters. You can't convince me that Alshon is giving them a better chance to win right now than Travis Fulgham or any. You can't convince me.
I think Travis Fulgham drops that touchdown. As bad as Alshon is, at least I mean, Fulgham's been terrible. He can't catch anything. His patterns are terrible. Alshon, I mean, I can't believe I'm defending him, but either way, I mean, I agree with the philosophy, and I think with JP they were wrong strategically, and maybe they are with Alshon, but
they are.
It's painful to see Fulgham out there, because all the things he was doing early. I mean, he's just not doing them. That one ball went right through his hands. He had, I think, 3 drops or 2 or 3 against the Packers. I don't think he was even targeted on Sunday. But
you got to work him out of it. You don't just go back to Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think their thing is, we're going to try to work him out of it during the week, and he's got to earn those snaps. I mean, this is a different topic. I mean, we're on to something else, but I agree with the philosophy. If I was Doug, I'd be playing Alshon over Fulgham now, based on what I've seen from Fulgham.
I certainly wouldn't, based on what I've seen from Alshon, but I understand, and I think we did get off topic, because the larger issue here is what Kelce was talking about, and it kind of gets us to what he was saying about Doug Pederson, and the value of a head coach that gets his players to play for him, that motivates players, assistant coaches. And Kelce made the point that, sure, like, you can have a schematic genius, but this part of being a head coach is probably undervalued. And I agree with him on that. Does it completely make up for everything else? I'm not sure, but it is Doug's strength, and it's an important strength.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of teams at 3-8-1 that are still playing hard. I mean, and this team, you could never question this team's effort. And when the two things come together, the coaching genius and the motivational, genius, you have 2017. But Doug's strength has always been having his voice heard and having his voice get through. And I mean, I can count on, even when this team's been really bad, they generally don't get blown out. And there's only a couple exceptions. I mean, New Orleans got away from them the first game in 2018, the Bengals game in 16, but there's just not a lot of, even the Rams game maybe this year, but there's not a lot of those games. and to still be playing hard with the injuries. I mean, they finished that game Sunday without, Rodney, Avante, and Darius Slay. And they have guys out there who have no business even being in the NFL, going out and playing hard. And when you play hard, you have a chance. And I think that, I've thought about that a lot this week. When Jeff Lurie looks at this thing, I mean, how much he's going to put a lot of weight into is Doug's message still getting through? And it is. That might save his job.
It might. And I think if Jeffrey goes back and looks at this, and I don't know what's going to happen with Howie, but if he's looking at this and saying, man, Doug doesn't have the players. Like, the guys he has aren't very good, but they're playing hard. Maybe that's enough for him to be like, well, Doug's doing his job. I mean, Kevon Seymour's playing really hard. He's just Kevon Seymour, and that's an injury thing. But I wonder, and that's obviously the big decision Jeff has to make, is how to assign this blame and the steps he takes to correct it. But yeah, I think there is something to it. And honestly, I think a player like Jason Kelce coming out this publicly and backing the head coach to the extent that he did means something. It really does. And it's not like Jeff's going to say, oh, well, Jason said it, so I'm going to keep him. But having the support of all-time greats in the locker room means something. And those are the things Chip didn't have. That's why Jeff hired Doug. He hired him because of his people skills and that emotional intelligence we all made fun of for so long, because that's what Doug gives them. And Jeff's just going to have to ask himself if that stuff outweighs some of the actual, what we think of as head coach stuff on the field and offensive play calling and offensive game plan. Does that outweigh? I'm not sure if I have the answer to that, but that's going to be a tough question for Jeff Lurie this offseason.
And I still think these last 3 games are going to go a long way toward answering that. I think Sunday really was a start to that answer, but they keep it together. I mean, we've all seen what teams look like when the coach's message and voice aren't getting through, and it's not a pretty thing to watch. But yeah, I think Doug, and I don't know exactly. I mean, Doug was a player for a long time, and he was around a lot of great coaches, Holmgren and Andy and Shula, and he learned. I mean, he learned how to get his message to players and how to get them to believe it and believe in him and believe in each other. And this team always does that, and that's been a hallmark of Doug's teams. And I think that's the first thing Jeff's going to look at. But you also have to win games, and they haven't done that. So we'll see what happens these next 3 weeks. I don't think that decision's been made yet.
No, I don't either. I definitely don't.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be fair to make that decision yet. I think we have too much left to see this season. So the other part of Kelce, he was talking with the young offensive lineman, and it was kind of like Kelce looking around going, well, yeah, I mean, look around here. It's me, Lane over 30, Brandon Brooks over 30, Jason Peters 75. He's looking around. He's seeing all these old guys. And even Isaac's, 27, 28 at this point? It's not like he's a young guy. He's in year 5, which is unbelievable to me. But it makes you start to wonder about Kelce's future, and we've talked about it a little bit, and the future of this offensive line, because their 2 best players coming back next year are coming off serious injuries. They're over 30. And Kelce himself is going to be over 30 if he's back next year.
Well, yeah, he is over. He's going to be 30, whether he's over 30, whether he's back or not. But and that's why I asked him that. And I think the part of his answer that really struck me was he didn't just talk about how impressed he's been with the younger offensive linemen, but he did say, we're not getting any younger. I mean, the starting group is not getting any younger. But I have been impressed with the group that they have. And I think Driscoll has been, when he's been healthy, and that's certainly something you have to keep an eye on because he's had 3 different injuries, but he's been really good. To play the opener, what?
I don't know if he's been really good.
Driscoll?
Yeah.
He's been really good. For a rookie 4th-round pick, coming in, played the opener. He's been impressive, and I think he's kind of put himself in, in the future picture. I think what Jordan has done is pretty remarkable. He just keeps getting better and better. I think his last 3 games have been his best. And it's funny because I was putting together a list of I think there's 24 guys now who never played in the NFL before this year who've played for the Eagles this year. And, I'm going for like Jameson Houston and, all these guys that, these fringe roster guys. And then one of them is Jordan Mailata. That guy never played a down in his life before, 3 months ago. And now he's like, beasting out there. So those two are, and then Herbig and Sua are both guys that show they can start in this league, or have a chance to be a starter in this league. And they're all young guys. And, Luke Juriga, who knows? We haven't really seen him. But they do have
those 4 snaps were elite.
They actually did get a first down on one of them, I think. It's a promising group. I think that's the way to say. I think they're going to have a chance. I don't know if any of these guys is going to be a Lane or a Brandon Brooks or a Kelce. Probably not. Although Mailata has a shot. I mean, he has a chance to be a special player because he's got so much ceiling.
I think a legitimate shot.
Yeah, I think he does. What did Kelce say? You don't have too many guys who are 6'10", 400 pounds who can move.
He gave him 400. I was like, I don't think he's quite 400, but
yeah, he has a shot. So yeah, it's not a team. It's not a roster that's got a ton of young talent, but I think at the O-line they've got some guys who have a chance.
They do, and the Mailata thing's interesting. Doug Pederson was asked if Mailata's the left tackle going forward. And he wouldn't say that. And I know some fans are really upset that he wouldn't say that. But
you can't.
You can't. I mean, he's got another guy. It doesn't do him any good to name Jordan Mailata the starter for next year now. They've got a first-round pick coming back. There should be a competition. And it should be a fair competition. And that's the important part of it. It should be a fair competition because Mailata deserves that. You just don't want to see them slant it to give the job to the first-round pick because they drafted him in the first round. It's unfortunate for him that he got hurt. It's not his fault that he got hurt. It's not his fault that Jordan Mailata has come in and played this well, but it's not Mailata's fault either. I mean, he's played really well.
But I also think that, Dillard will be in his 3rd year next year, and I think that with each successive year, the fact that he's a first-round pick kind of matters a little less. Because the investment is less now. As far as they're not going to cut him, although he's not the most valuable backup because he can't play anywhere else. Certainly, he's not going to be your backup right tackle.
And that's another part of this. I hope Mailata's versatility doesn't hurt him, because I hope they don't say, "Hey, we think Dillard and Jordan are kind of on the same level, but Jordan can play right tackle too, so he's more valuable as a backup to us." I hope that doesn't happen for his sake, because that would kind of be like his versatility working against him in a way.
Yeah, but the fact that Dillard will be here, he's going to be on the roster either way. If something happens, you can move Mailata, I guess, if you have to, and put Dillard in a left tackle. But yeah, I think I don't think Dillard can beat him in a fair competition. We've only seen Dillard for 4 games, 3 at left tackle. I don't think he was bad. I thought he played pretty well in the Buffalo game, but Mailata's on a different level, and this is without, he gets better every week. That's the crazy thing about Jordan. He's getting better, and Dillard is just not doing anything. So if it's a fair competition, Dillard can't win it.
I do want to give Dillard credit, though, because the one thing we saw in those 3 games last year was they didn't have enough functional strength. And to his credit, he added a lot of that. And we never got to see him play with that added weight and that added strength. So I really don't know what kind of player he is. He might be a lot better than we know. We haven't seen it. But the interesting thing with Mailata, and you mentioned, is that he keeps getting better and better and better. I remember when he first arrived, I kind of said he was like a baby because, a baby, every time you see them, they're doing something new. And that was Jordan back then. And it's still him in some respects now. He's like a toddler now. I like this better than the peanut analogy. I might give this to him. He was a baby when he got here. Now he's a toddler. The ceiling is so high for him. And it's fun to think about how good he could be. It really is.
And he already is. He's already pretty good. Yeah, it's been fun to watch. It's one of the fun things about this year. There haven't been a whole lot. 'Tis the season to thrill at the Nissan year-end sales event. Get in and then get out and experience the most riveting ride of the year in a brand new Nissan. These savings on Nissan's lineup are sure to raise your pulse.
Joining us now on the Eagle Eye podcast, as he does every week, our good friend Ray Didinger. Ray, how you doing, man?
I'm good, David. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's funny. Last week we talked, and I don't think any of us had a lot of confidence in the Eagles beating the Saints, and then, of course, they go out and have a heck of a game. And it was more than Jalen Hurts, but Hurts obviously the big story. This is our first chance to talk to you since he got his first start. What were your impressions of him?
It was really impressive. It really was. I thought that I wasn't surprised by his poise and composure, which everybody talked about, and it was very obvious. It was clear that the stage wasn't too big for him, but you look at the big games that he played in college. I mean, the big stage was not new to him. I mean, he had played in big games before. So I didn't expect him to go out there and suffer stage fright, and he did. And I certainly wasn't surprised by the fact that he was able to make some plays with his legs, because anybody who saw him play in college knew he could do that. I think what surprised me was when he threw the ball, how accurate he was. That was my one question of him coming into the NFL was, would he be an accurate enough passer? And I thought he was extremely accurate, just on even little plays like swing passes and stuff like that, that the Carson, frankly, had trouble throwing this year and had missed on way too many of them. Hurts didn't miss on any of them. And he put the ball in places where receivers could kind of catch it on the run. I mean, that's why he got some big yards after the catch plays. Because his ball placement was so good. So I think in some aspects, I wasn't surprised. I kind of expected him to look pretty good out there doing some things, but it was his accuracy in terms of the passing game that I think if there was anything that surprised me, it was probably that.
He throws a really soft ball. It's a very catchable ball. I think that's why you see a guy like Miles, who had so much trouble catching the ball the first 12 games, was really secure with the ball. And, that's kind of unusual quality for a guy in his first start. You expect him to be like super hyped, too eager, but he throws a nice soft football. I think the thing that surprised me was just his decision making was, and I guess we're so used to seeing Carson just kind of standing back there, not knowing what to do, but he threw the ball away. He eluded trouble. He didn't stand in the pocket too long. Those are things. I mean, he didn't have a preseason. Those are things that usually take a young quarterback some time.
You're right. And the one play that really jumped out at me was the touchdown pass to Alshon, because he has a blitzer coming right in his face, and he sees him. And you would think that a kid making his first start, who's known as a quick twitch kind of mobile quarterback, seeing that kind of pressure, his first reaction would be just take off and run away from it. And he did. I mean, he knew where the route was. He knew where Jeffrey was. He knew that the play was there to be made. And look, I'm going to have to stand in here and I'm going to have to take the hit. But I know if I put the ball in the right spot, it's a touchdown. And that's the one that impressed me. That's the one that I went back and I looked at that one over and over again, because he gets crushed as he lets the ball go. But those are the kind of throws that you have to make to win games in the NFL. And sometimes for young quarterbacks, especially guys who have relied on their mobility throughout their career, to make that choice to hang in there and make the pass as opposed to trying to run out of trouble and make a throw as good as he made. That was good stuff. That was really impressive.
Yeah, it was. And obviously his legs are what kind of separates him. And we saw a lot of that. It's funny. We talked about this on a podcast earlier in the week. But for whatever reason, Doug Pederson seemed to call a really good game against the Saints. And it's brought up a topic this week about, the games he calls for his backup quarterbacks. We're talking about Nick Foles and now Jalen Hurts in one game versus the games he calls for Carson Wentz. And we kind of talked about the disconnect between Wentz and Doug this year. But do you think there's something here, Ray? Because it seems like he called a really good game on Sunday. I felt like he had a really good feel for the quarterback, and that's something I don't think we saw in the first 12 games.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty remarkable when you look at them. When you look at the one-loss record with Wentz versus the one-loss record with backup quarterbacks, mostly Nick, obviously, but now 1-0 with Hurts. I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing, but I think that sometimes what happens is that when coaches are going with a backup quarterback, and they know they're going with the backup quarterback, all the staff meetings during the week are all geared towards, okay, let's not worry about the whole playbook here. Let's just scale it down, and let's just figure out what he does well. What can he run? What's he confident with? We're not going to worry about all the stuff that we normally put in. Let's just, even if it's just a matter of 12 to 15 kinds of plays, a good solid foundation that he'll be comfortable with and that we can call with some confidence. And sometimes I think sometimes that happens. And sometimes in football, especially in offensive football, and your head coach is an offensive player, sometimes less can be more. I think sometimes if you've got your veteran quarterback, your starting quarterback, and you're throwing all kinds of stuff up there, well, let's try this, and we could try that, and why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And sometimes it can just become a little bit overwhelming, and sometimes you can actually get away from the things that you really do well because you're trying to do new things and introduce them to the offense. You're less likely to try that with a backup quarterback. So sometimes I think you narrow your focus a little bit, and the quarterback becomes more comfortable. The other offensive players become a little more comfortable, and it translates into better execution. And I agree with you. I thought Doug did a really good job. I thought he called a lot of plays that were really tailored to Hurts' strengths, and give him tremendous credit. I mean, when the plays that were called and the throws that he was asked to make, he made them. I was really impressed with that. But I think the idea of sometimes if it's a backup quarterback, you don't try to do too much. Sometimes can be beneficial for the quarterback and the whole offense.
But how much better would Doug's play calling appear this year if Carson was playing at just an average level? If he was just making the average plays, I think part of it is Carson. I think Carson really had the ability this year to make Doug's play calling look really bad. I think Doug did a good job Sunday. I do. But I don't think he was as bad the first 12 games as maybe he looked, just because Carson was so incapable of making even the simplest throws, the simplest correct decisions. I think he made Doug's play calling look a lot worse, maybe.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I know there was earlier in the season in one of your press conferences with him, one of the reporters raised the point about, he referred to Carson missing layup throws. And Doug took a little umbrage at that, but there's no such thing as layup throws in the NFL. Well, yeah, there are. I mean, what the suggestion was that these are throws that have to be made. And they were there, and there were a number of them this year, and some of them in big situations, third downs that could have kept a drive. I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be, and the play was there to be made. Doug called the right play. It's an easy throw, and Carson just missed it. You look over the course of any number of games. And whole game, there are 120, 130 snaps in the game. When it comes right down to it, 4, 5, 6 plays can make the difference in the game. And one of those easy throws that was missed on the third down that gave the ball back to the other team, I mean, that could change the whole course of the game. Sometimes it comes down to that. And he missed, I agree with you, Reuben, he missed way too many of them this year. And a lot of that then falls on the head coach doing a bad job of play calling. But a lot of times when you look back on it, the right play was called. The play was there to be made, and Carson just didn't make it. For 1 week at least, Jalen did.
What's the challenge for Jalen now moving forward? Obviously, Arizona, had a great. They've been up and down this year, but their defense is pretty solid. You look at the second half against the Saints. I think Jalen threw for 39 yards. They obviously did some different things. They had time to adjust. Now the Cards have a week to look at all this tape.
Right.
What's the challenge now for Jalen and for Doug calling plays for him?
Yeah, you put your finger on it. I think that. I really do think that there was a little bit of an advantage that the Eagles had last Sunday in the fact that the Saints had not only never seen Hurts before, but the Saints, if you look at their schedule this year, they really hadn't played a mobile quarterback. I mean, they had played Brady twice, they played Ryan twice, Stafford, Foles, Carr. They had never really faced an RPO kind of quarterback. So even though they were the number one defense, they had never really been tested quite that way. So, and I think for the first half, it really threw them off. I mean, you could see that. I mean, Eagles had 300 yards offense in the first half. But just with that 12-minute halftime, the Saints did some adjusting and they came out in the second half. And you're right. I mean, the Eagles had barely 100 yards of total offense in the second half. So now you've got the Arizona Cardinals that have that whole tape to study and a whole week to prepare. And you combine that with the fact that they're a very different kind of defense in the Saints. They're a 3-4. They have very good linebackers. The strength of their defense really is the linebacker core. They've got guys that can really run. They cover sideline to sideline. And I think they can match Hurts more speed for speed than the Saints were prepared to do. And so that's going to be a challenge. And the fact that, Matt Pryor's going to have to play at tackle where, I don't know that I like any matchup with him out on tackle. I mean, he's barely functional as a guard, but I mean, you put him out and ask him to play tackle against a 3-4 team that can bring it off the edges. That's going to be a real problem, I think. So the fact that the Cardinals have the 3-4 look and they do a very good job of disguising things will be more of a challenge for Hurts in terms of reading. And they've got a lot more speed at the linebacker position. And I think they'll come into this game better armed for dealing with Hurts. But, I don't expect him to go out there and just cave into this. I mean, I think that he's got a week under his belt now. I think he's got some confidence. The guys in the team certainly have confidence playing behind him. I think they're going to be able to move the ball and make some plays. But the challenge will get greater as we move forward here, and other teams get a better handle on exactly how to play against him.
Yeah, this is the part that always fascinates me, the chess game in football, that, now there's a game of tape for the Cardinals to use, and the Eagles have to try to counteract that. So if you're the Eagles and you're in these offensive game plan meetings this week, what do you think they're talking about? What do you think they're expecting the Cardinals to do? And then how do they try to add some wrinkles to their offense? Because it was pretty simple last week to try to get Hurts going against a pretty good defense.
Yeah, the Cardinals are a tough team to prepare for defensively. Their defense, when you watch them, because they play with the 4 linebackers, they kind of like walk around a lot, and they're very tough to get a pre-snap read on. It almost looks like they're just kind of wandering, but it is by design, and it's all geared towards making the quarterback not exactly know where the pressure's coming from. They will try to give you different kinds of looks where you think this guy's coming, but he's not. He's dropping. The pressure's actually coming from the other side. They really make you process an awful lot of information at the line of scrimmage. And I think they're just going to ramp that up more going against a rookie quarterback. And that's going to be it, I think. I think that it's going to be, if you're in the Eagles coaching, if you're in the meeting rooms this week, I think it's all about how do we deal with the pressure? Where's the pressure going to come from, and how do we pick it up? Because you've got a combination of a team that's very fast at linebacker, have a lot of really different kinds of blitz looks, zone blitzes you don't normally see, and working against, once again, another reconfigured offensive line. I think that's going to be the problem, is understanding where the pressure is and knowing how to pick it up, because I know that's going to be the Cardinals' plan of attack. The Eagles, I think, if they come at this and they run the ball sufficiently, and they run the ball enough, and they use Miles Sanders, you can run against this team. You can run successfully against this team. And I think coming into it, Sanders has to be a big part of the preparation. We kind of said this last week, and I think it's true again this week, is you can't put the whole thing on Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's what the fans are talking about. That's what everybody's going to be looking for, is how he plays in week 2. But you can't, as coaches, you can't put it all on him. You have to try and balance out the offense. And let's face it, I mean, we've seen what Miles Sanders is capable of. I mean, 82-yard touchdown last week, 2 70-yarders earlier this season. I mean, he's a home run hitter, and you have to give him his swings too.
What's your, he had 18, Jalen had 18 carries, 3 were kneel down, so really 15 running plays. Normally I would say that's a pretty high number. It's probably too high. It's not sustainable, but he really, I don't know the exact number, but he ran out of bounds on probably 10 or 11 of them. He didn't take a lot of flush hits. He probably took more in the pocket. Does that bother you at all? You think he's okay? I mean, he seems to have a good knack for the sticks, getting to the sticks and running out of bounds to safety.
Yeah, the numbers real high. I mean, it's the three of them were kneel down, so you kind of take those out. But you still got 15 straight up rushes, which is a lot. I mean, that's more than Donovan ever had in a game. That's more than Randall ever had in a game. It's more than Mike Vick ever had as an Eagle. Mike Vick's, I went back and looked this up. The most rushing attempts Mike Vick ever had in his career back in his younger Atlanta days was 15. So Hurts had that in week 1. So that's a lot. But you're right. I mean, he did seem to run with some awareness of where he was and how to protect himself. Slid when he felt like he had to, got out of bounds when he felt like he had to. I mean, in that sense, he wasn't playing recklessly. But generally, and I think you guys asked Doug the question at least once this week, I saw it asked about that number of rushing attempts. And Doug said that, yeah, I don't think we want to try and do that every week. And I agree with him. But I mean, there were some direct snap kinds of plays that clearly were straight up runs. I mean, it was a direct snap to him and he just tucked it and ran a couple times on third down and made picking up the first down look easy. If that's there, I think you got to take it and then just trust him to get what you need to get and then just get out of harm's way. And it seems like now he already has a pretty good sense of how to do that.
I know he's already slid more than Michael Vick.
Yeah, Mike never did. Mike never did get the handle on that. Brian Baldinger and I watched a whole bunch of Vic tape one time to just try and figure out that part of his game, and it was Brian's opinion. I think he's right. Is that Mike ran too fast to slide? I mean, he was just running so fast. I mean, do you remember when he was in Atlanta? They had Gary Templeton, the Atlanta Brave, try and teach him how to slide. Well, it wasn't really like he didn't know how to slide. He played baseball. He knew how to slide. But the fact is, his running style, he was running too fast to do the slide like a regular quarterback. He didn't run like a quarterback. That was part of the problem. He didn't run like a quarterback, so he couldn't finish like a quarterback. I mean, he was running like a running back, and that was something that was there, and you're never going to get that out of his game. It doesn't look to me like Jalen Hurts runs that kind of way. It looks to me like he runs with an idea, look, I'm just going to get what I can get, and I'm going to get down, and that's a smart way to go.
Yeah, it's impressive to see him take care of his body like that, though, especially as a young. I mean, Carson still hasn't really figured out exactly how to limit those hits, and he's in year 5, and then this kid comes in and he's sliding, he's getting out of bounds. It's good to see, especially if they're going to keep running him, maybe not 15 times, but 10 times a game. You want to see that from him. Ray, before we let you go, which way you leaning on this game, Eagles Cardinals?
Ray's going Eagles.
Yeah, we spent all this time talking about Hurts and the offense. My biggest concern is the defense and the shape of the defense right now, especially the secondary. I mean, you guys are down there every day, so you have a better sense of who's going to be available. I mean, I don't know if Slay's going to play, and right now, I mean, they're going to be putting a couple guys out there that haven't been with the team all that long, and the Cardinals got all their receivers back. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald is back. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins he's a huge weapon. I look back over these last 3 games now, and you see that the Eagles just haven't been able to handle the really top shelf receivers. I mean, Michael Thomas and DK Metcalf and Devontae Adams in there. I mean, in those 3 games, they were targeted 33 times and they got 28 catches on 33 targets. I mean, that tells you that anytime the quarterback wanted to get the ball to that guy, he was able to get the ball to that guy. So, you factor a guy as good as Hopkins into that. That's a little, and the secondary being as beat up as it is, that to me is the problem. I think the Eagles will move the ball, and I think the Eagles will score. I think it'll be a close game. I really do. I think it'll be there. I think it'll be winnable into the fourth quarter. But I just don't know. I mean, the Cardinals, to me, they were really good defensively last week. It looked like they kind of got it back on track. Kyler Murray looked healthier. I mean, he went through a period there a few weeks ago where clearly he was not 100% with the shoulder. He looked better last week. Not great, but better. And it's a big game for the Cardinals. I mean, they need to get it back on track here. And so I'm going to take the Cardinals. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch with the 2 Oklahoma quarterbacks going head-to-head. But I'm leaning towards Arizona 28-24.
All right, well, we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, I look forward to it. Take care, guys.
Hey, if you're a football fan, you need to check out the new game Sunday Night 7 on the NBC Sports Predictor app. There's no reason not to play. It's totally free. It's got $2 million in guaranteed cash prizes this season alone, with $100,000 up for grabs every week. Just make 7 predictions about what will happen on Sunday Night Football for your chance to win some serious money. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app or head to nbcsports.com/predictor to make your Sunday Night 7 picks.
Thanks, as always, to Ray Didinger for joining us. I always enjoy that. Rube, we talked about it at the top of the show a little bit when we got off topic a little bit, but Travis Fulgham, this disappearance has been really crazy. For 5 weeks, he was the number 1 receiver in the NFL, and in the 5 weeks since, really hasn't done much of anything. What do you make of all this?
I think 4 catches for 32 yards in the last 5 games. Didn't catch a pass against Green Bay. Wasn't targeted against New Orleans. I just think he's been terrible. And it's a tough thing because we know what he's capable of. We know what he's able to do. But I think a lot of it is he's been so bad. He's not doing the things he was doing. And Doug, I mean, even in the first couple of weeks after, he was still playing after that 5-game stretch, Doug kept referring to his work habits. He's got to be better. He's got to work harder. He knows he has to work. He kept throwing those references out there. So to me, it's clear he's in the doghouse. It's an unusual circumstance because it wasn't just one great game. He had five games of 70 or more yards, including 152 against Pittsburgh. I mean, he was targeted more against Pittsburgh than snaps against New Orleans. He was targeted 13 times in that game. He only played 11. I mean, Quez Watkins played twice as many snaps as him Sunday. He's got 1 career catch for 3 yards. So something's going on. I don't think they've forgotten about him. I just think that they feel like at the point he is now, he's just not helping him and he's hurting him. And it's a tough call because is the guy that had those 5 games, he had 435 yards in 5 games and 4 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Is he still there? And it's kind of like Carson. Is he still there? If you keep running him out there, is that player going to magically reappear? Or do you just have to kind of, shut him down and maybe figure if we're going to get anything out of him, we need the off season. This is too big to kind of fix in 2 or 3 weeks. It's different when it's a wide receiver because you just think of his job being a lot simpler than a quarterback. Just go run a pattern and catch the ball, things he's done all his life. But there's a reason he was cut by the Lions and didn't play for the Lions last year. And the reason he was cut by the Packers, he wasn't there very long. There was a reason he was on the street. And there was a reason he was still on the street when the Eagles cut him. So the 5 games he had are more, the exception than the rest of his career. So hopefully they can get back on track. But I understand Doug, and like I said earlier, I understand him wanting a guy out there who he feels like he can rely on right now because I feel like he just doesn't trust Travis to be in the right place and to catch the ball. To
me, it's lunacy, honestly, because it's not a quarterback. It's not a 5th-year quarterback. We're talking about a 2nd-year receiver who has had these flashes. And now to not play him because you want to play Alshon Jeffrey, it doesn't make any sense. Let him work through this a little bit. At least give him the opportunity to work through it. Don't slice his snaps.
But he had the opportunity. I mean, he had 3 games and he kept dropping the ball. It goes back to what Kelce was talking about. Who gives you the better chance to win a game right now? It's clearly Alshon.
It is not clearly Alshon. Alshon, what is Alshon? He had the 1 touchdown catch, and that was great. But Travis Fulgham's done a lot more this year than Alshon.
Not in the last 5 weeks, he hasn't.
Alshon has 2 catches, 3 catches?
3 catches.
Actually, Travis has 4. So it's not like Alshon
has more touchdowns.
Yeah, sure. Alshon has 1 play over Travis Fulgham in the last 5 weeks.
And Travis Fulgham has none.
And to play a 30-year-old guy who won't be here next year doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
I understand that, but Alshon's also, you can see him getting a little more comfortable each week, a little better. I'm not saying they should build around Alshon in the future, but I just think it goes back to who's going to give us the best chance to win to beat the Saints. And it was clearly the guy who helped them beat the Saints.
I don't think it's that clear. I really don't, because Alshon is aging. He's not good. That one touchdown catch did not change my opinion of him as a player at this point at all. I'd play Travis Fulgham. I want to know what I have in this kid. I think he deserves the opportunity to work himself out of this, and he hasn't gotten it for whatever reason. And maybe it's behind the scenes, and we won't know that.
5 games after that 5-game stretch. It's not like they benched him after he had 78 yards against the Ravens.
But they've slowly killed his snaps. Let him work through it.
He's dropped more passes than he's caught in the last 5 weeks. I mean, that one went right through his hands.
Yep, he dropped the pass. Second-year receiver, get him out of here. I don't want to see him anymore.
There's a pattern.
They should cut him. They should send him. They should ship him off to Siberia.
Okay. I think there's a pattern of failure over the last few weeks with him that's only gotten worse.
And they resort to playing Alshon. It doesn't make we're going to disagree on this, because you're not going to convince me that Alshon gives him a better shot to win. And you're not going to convince me that they shouldn't play Travis Fulgham over him, because we're running in circles here, but they should play Travis Fulgham. I'm right. Next, we do have to wrap this up. But real quick, what's one key to the game on Sunday against Arizona?
Running the football. How about that? Which Doug still didn't really do that much. I mean, they had 250 rushing yards, but I mean, Miles still only had 14 carries, including 82-yarder. First player in NFL history to have 3 carries of 70 yards or more in games where he had 15 or fewer carries. I just made that up, but it could be true.
Is this how you get all your stats?
Yeah, everyone.
No one ever looks them up.
Nobody ever checks them, but they're all made up. But yeah, I think, and because they have, as Ray alluded to, they play a 3-4. They get good pressure. Hassan Reddick, South Jersey, Haddon Heights, hat tip to him, 5 sacks, but he's a good pass rusher. They have good guys that can get after the quarterback, and they're going to contain Hurts a little more. So they're going to have to get the running game established. I don't have a lot of faith in Doug doing it, but I think it's important.
For me, I'm going to flip to the other side. I think the defensive line has to have its best game of the season because of the secondary. I mean, we're talking about, this is a bad week to be this banged up in the secondary. You have Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, and Christian Kirk. I mean, and you're going to have guys covering them. You don't even know who they are. So the front 4 has to get after it. They have to get constant pressure. They have to make Kyler Murray's life a living hell on Sunday. That's the only chance they have. That offense is talented. And the problem is, even if you get pressure on Murray, it doesn't mean you're going to get him down, because he's so quick. That's the one thing about him. All these guys are fast. He's so quick. I mean, he can get out of anything. So it's me that I don't know if they're going to be able to keep pace with the Cardinals offense in this game. So those are things to watch. We want to thank Ray Didinger for joining us, as he does every week. If you enjoy the podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You got anything else before we close this down?
Alshon.
Where's Perkins Cove? I've been looking at your hat. 1653.
Perkins Cove is in southern Maine. Okay. It's off like Wells Beach, Ogunquit, that whole area, York Beach. It's kind of a beautiful spot. Yeah.
I understood Maine in that, nothing else. All right, everyone, take care. All right, we will talk to you after the game on Sunday. Have a good weekend, everyone.